Hi everybody, this is Kevin and welcome back to another video. And today I would like to go over my must-play games of 2025. Now I'm sure you've already seen plenty of videos of people going over their must-play games releasing in 2025. However, yours truly is doing it a little bit differently because these are mainly my backlog games. I rarely ever play games upon the release just because I have a million games in my backlog, and usually you can wait 6 months and the game will go on sale for $30, so why are you rushing to buy a $70 game? At least that's my philosophy. And so I was going over the games I played last year. It was around 30 of them. So I decided with this list we'll put 20 games on here. I'm pretty confident I can beat them all. And, well, actually, there's one on here, which I don't even know if it's releasing this year, but we have it anyway, because I got to talk about it. You'll see why in a moment, dear viewer. But, yeah, I think I can accomplish all this. You just never know. You might find another game for $10. I got to pick it up. I got to play that. There's another backlog game. Who knows? Nobody knows. And so, we're near the end of January. And the thing is, I haven't started any of these games for a number of reasons. Number one, I have been rewatching the original Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Monsters anime series. I started that around Thanksgiving. I'm close to the end. I'm in the final arc now, which has many names. Some call it the Pharaoh's Memories, some call it the Millennium World, and then the 4Kids called it the Dawn of the Duel. Whichever you call it, though, it is certified Kino, and I love it so much, man. You know, when people talk about the original Yu-Gi-Oh! Anime series, they always talk about Battle City, and I really never hear anyone talk about the final arc. The final arc is so good, and that's what it was all building up to. The card game was all building up to the ancient battle 5,000 years in the past in Egypt. It is so good, and wait for my hour-long or however-long video on the Yu-Gi-Oh! Anime series whenever I finish it, so a little tease right there. That's why I have the legend, Joey Wheeler and Baby Dragon, which this is from the Capsule Monsters mini-series, which actually released after the original Yu-Gi-Oh! Anime series, but it takes place after the Grand Championship before the final arc. And how can you, like, people shit on this arc, too. How can you not love the bond between Joey and Baby Dragon? Oh, yeah, and Flame Swordsman. But anyway, I've been watching Yu-Gi-Oh! And I've also been playing my forever gacha games, one of which I think you all know, and that's Fate Grand Order. I'll also have a video on that shortly. But the other one has been my return to Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel, which I played this back, I think it launched in 2022, right? 3 years ago, or 2.5 years ago. And I did pretty much everything you can do in this game. I achieved top rank. I really enjoyed it. But it got to a point where it's just repetitive, and how much can you really play Yu-Gi-Oh! So I uninstalled it, and I haven't touched it in 2.5 years. So I decided to reinstall it now that I've been rewatching the Yu-Gi-Oh! Anime series. They added so much stuff. They actually banned Card of Demise. So, like, well, how can you ban Card of Demise? But they banned some cards. They added some new cards, and I've really enjoyed playing it again. You see the title screen right there, graced by the presence of the legend, Mahad, which you better believe I have Mahad in my deck. I have a Dark Magician deck. The Red Eyes Dark Dragoon is my ultimate monster. And Mahad is such a badass effect. Like, if you draw him, you can just summon him. No tributes, no nothing. You just draw him, summon him. And then his attack is doubled if he fights against a dark monster. And if he's destroyed, you can bring Dark Magician to the field. It's so good. So I'll do a video on Master Duel as well, just going over my deck and maybe show you a few duels. But, you know, I'm a bit of a Yu-Gi-Oh! Boomer. My knowledge goes up to 5D, so I have no idea what the fuck pendulum monsters are. And whenever I face someone with pendulum monsters, I'm like, I don't know what the hell's going on. I can't read. But Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel, excellent. Strongly recommend. Also, Fate Grand Order, my other forever gacha game, which I've been playing this since, what, April or May of last year, every day. And it's so good. I finished the main story arc, so I'm currently working on the Epic of Remnant, as well as the interludes, and then soon the Lost Belts. So good. That's why I can't tolerate people who say gacha games suck, or no, they're not real games. No, first of all, This is, okay, it's a gacha. It's just Yu-Gi-Oh! That's all it is. But this is a visual novel that they turned into a gacha game. And that's why I've advocated many times this should be its own game. But without further ado, let's get to the actual list. Like, what are you guys here for? I guess you're here for the ranting and raving with Kevin, because that's what I'm about. But the first game on my list here is Grand Blue Fantasy vs. Rising, which is a game that released in 2023, 2D fighting game from Arc System Works and Cygames, as well as the sequel to 2020's Grand Blue Fantasy Versus, a game which I beat this past December, have my review recorded, and will be up shortly, but in short, I really enjoyed Versus. I'm looking forward to playing Versus Rising. I probably would be playing it right now, but I'm just distracted by Yu-Gi-Oh! And dueling! It's time to duel! I'm gonna break out a duel disc, you better watch out. But Grand Blue Fantasy, all I'll say right now is Zeta, best girl. And there are many, many waifus in the Grand Blue Fantasy, not just Versus, but the Grand Blue Fantasy verse. It started with a gacha game, even more waifus trapped on the gacha. And the way I typically like to play these long-running games or multiple entries is start from the beginning. So Grand Blue Fantasy Versus, then Grand Blue Fantasy Versus Rising, followed by the next game, which is Grand Blue Fantasy Relink. This game released back last year in 2024. I think early. Was it in January or February? It was an early game. And I've been really interested in this. But the thing is, like I just said, I like to play things in the release order and to learn more about the characters. Although I think Relink is a perfect entry point from what I've seen. It'll get you up to speed with the characters. Like, even the fighting games get you pretty up to speed with the characters and their backstories. You don't need to play the gacha game or watch the anime. And with Relink, it reminded me a lot of the Tales of series, but I've also heard more people say, oh, it's like Monster Hunter, so maybe that's the case. I'm not a fan of Monster Hunter, so I don't know how I'm going to feel about that, but the waifus will sell me on the game. Like, all right, you see Jita and Lyria there, but over here, I didn't even mention Narmaya, another best girl contender. No Zeta. No Zeta for poor Kevin, but Zeta is in my heart, that's for sure. So yeah, Grand Blue Fantasy Relink, of course. The next game is technically a new game, but not really, and that's the Tales of Graces F Remaster, which just released in the middle of January, and I actually bought it. It was only 40 bucks. I know I mentioned earlier, like, I don't buy games at launch because they're so expensive, they'll go on sale, but there's few exceptions, and obviously the Tales of series is one of them. And the more Tales of games I play, I'm more inclined to believe that the Tales of series is actually better than Final Fantasy. The only thing that Final Fantasy edges out the Tales of series is turn-based. You know, I prefer turn-based over action, but the Tales of series is more JRPG or an anime as fuck than the Final Fantasy games are. And, dude, the voice cast on this game, my god, they got Bryce Papenbrook as the main character, Cassandra Lee Morris is in it, David Vincent, Mongrels, which, yes, he voices the blonde-haired character, too. Jameson Price, and Laura Bailey, she voiced one of the characters, too. I think that girl with the pink hair there to the right, she voiced one of the characters. However, with this remaster, they were actually dubbing more lines because some of the skits, kind of like Tales of Symphonia. In Tales of Symphonia, the skits weren't dubbed, but they had Japanese voice acting. And with this remaster, they're doing the English dub for the skits. And because Laura Bailey, sadly, is too big for anime games now, you know, she only does like the big budget games and things of that nature, Alexis Tipton is voicing her character, which has been par for the course of most of her roles. And Alexis Tipton is a great voice actor. It's kind of disappointing that people often look at her as the shadow of Laura Bailey because she fills in for a lot of the roles that Laura Bailey no longer voices, because she's a great voice actor in her own right. You know, she voiced Muse in the Trails of Cold Steel games, Sister Iris in Fire Force, among many other roles. So shout out to Alexis Tipton. Definitely looking forward to playing through Tales of Graces F Remastered. I can't wait. Although, I guess I can because I own it. But you get the idea. Okay, next up is quite an undertaking. This will be the one that I hope to accomplish, which is why it's on here, but maybe the most doubtful. And it is a series. The Xenoblade Chronicles series, finally! And I own all of these games with the exception of Xenoblade Chronicles X, which of course is a Wii U game, soon to be remastered for the Switch. And if you're familiar with this channel, I don't even like the Switch. I hate using the Switch. I wish these were on the PS4 or PS5. It'd be more easy for me to use, but, you know, I gotta bite the bullet and play a game on the Switch, especially something such as this, which created by the legendary Tetsuya Takahashi, famous for Xenogears, the Xenosaga games, and even before that working with Square Enix, designing the mech, which is why he loves mech so much. He designed the mech from Final Fantasy VI. That whole sequence of the mech walking in the snow with Terra and the two other guys, he did that, Tetsuya Takahashi. And then him and his wife, Sorya Saga, that was her pen name. I forget what her real name is, but they created Edgar and Sabin, which was also going to influence Bart and Sigurd in Xenogears, and much, much more. And I think a lot of people misinterpret a lot of the things with the Xeno games just because they don't know about the philosophers that influenced Tetsuya Takahashi and the films like 2001: A Space Odyssey, which that's where the name Monolith Soft comes from. But anyway, so definitely looking forward to playing the Xenoblade Chronicles games. Of course, we have Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition on the Switch, as well as Xenoblade Chronicles 2, which, you know, without even playing these games yet, I will already conclude that 2 will probably be my favorite just because of the waifus, because of Mithra and Pyra, and the fact that it's filtered many, many people before me. Because, oh no, the heckin' booberitos, I can't handle it. Well, get the fuck out. Go back to wherever you came from. Torn of the Golden Country, which I understand this one, this is actually, I have this on a cartridge. You can check one of my haul videos if you don't believe me, but I own all these games. So, this I understand is the prequel to Xenoblade Chronicles 2, but it's advised to play this after 2 because it kind of spoils things. It's kind of like, I guess, what would be a good example? Like, the Star Wars movies, you know, where do you start with that? Do you start with the first 3, or do you start with 4, 5, and 6? I mean, who the fuck knows? But it's advised to play this after 2, from what I understand. 3, which everyone says 3 was great too. 3 is probably the best in terms of just how they polish things and improve things, because when you look at it, I don't know about story, but just in terms of gameplay maybe, you know, 1 was a Wii game, then it got enhanced on the Switch, 2 was one of the Switch launch titles in the first year, and then 3 is a couple years ago they were really able to polish things, so there's that. And then, of course, Xenoblade Chronicles X Definitive Edition, which this has the most voice actors I recognize, like Cassandra Lee Morris and some others, whereas the other Xenoblade games have, like, the Kino British voice acting, which I'm also down for. But I like my anime shit voice actors, too, who I know from my many JRPGs and anime. Anyway, moving on to the next series of games, we have the visual novel rabbit hole, the Type Moon rabbit hole to be more specific. As I hope you're aware, my favorite game that I played last year was Fate Stay Night, the legendary Fate Stay Night, a 20-year-old visual novel. And I absolutely loved it, and I hope to dive into more of the Type Moon visual novels from Kinoku Nasu. Of course, one of them being Tsukihime, a piece of blue glass moon, or as Yellow Flash likes to call it, Sukiheim. He doesn't even know what the fuck he's talking about doing his video. I gotta do this video talking about the censorship that I know nothing about, and I'm gonna butcher the name, call it Sukiheim. What a fucking retard. Fucking Yellow Flash. Fucking retard. They're not even at this point, they're not even grifters. They're known as slop tubers. They're just the lowest common denominator, slop tube. Terrible. But what's not terrible is Tsukihime, and Arcuade, and all the other wonderful characters here. Definitely looking forward to that, which I own this game. I showed this in a haul video as well. I have it on the Switch, and I bought it again on the PS5 because it was $20 on the PS5, and I'd rather play it on the PS5 than play it on the Switch. I just got the Switch one because it had the uncensored art book, because not the heckin' booberitos. There's also The Witch on the Holy Night, another Type Moon visual novel, which Tsukihime, that was back in... So this, I understand, is a remake of the original Tsukihime from the 90s. I think it was 1998 or 1999. It was before... Maybe it was 2000. It was way back when. Way back yonder. Back in my day. But Nasu decided he's going to remake this, which is why it's subtitled A Piece of Blue Glass Moon. And there's going to be a sequel to that. I think it's like The Other Side of the Red Garden. And you have that coming soon. And then there's The Witch on the Holy Night, which this is the more recent one from the 2010s. Also looking forward to this. I just love the aesthetic and the character designs. And this, I believe, takes place in the 1980s as far as the time goes, which Tsukihime, I think that's like the 90s, 2000s, and then Fate Stay Night took place in 2004. So I like that whole aesthetic, attention to detail. So good stuff. Here we have a game which I don't even know if it's releasing this year, but again, the Type Moon rabbit hole continues with Fate Hollow Ataraxia, the sequel to Fate Stay Night, which they announced this when Fate Stay Night released last August. And as you can see, we still know nothing other than in development for Steam, Nintendo Switch. Now, I don't know what the hell that even means, because this game released on the Vita like years ago. But they're just going to translate it into English for the first time. So I think that's what it means. But yeah, it does take time to translate it, because it's a 100-hour-long visual novel. At least Fate Stay Night was. I'm not sure how long this is. And I would gather, kind of spoilery, I would gather it's a sequel, or not a sequel, but the continuation after the Heavens Feel ending, because of the characters that you see on the screen. I will say no more, but I'm also looking forward to that, of course. Next up, we have Fate Extra Record, which this is a remake of Fate Extra from the PSP. Again, I don't know if there's an actual release date for this. I think they say it's releasing in 2025, but they haven't actually given us a firm date. I've seen the trailer, of course. I did a reaction to the trailer, and comparison to the PSP game to this, which obviously it's going to look nicer at least. And it's turn-based, so yeah, absolutely I'm going to play it. So you better believe it. So yeah, I guess that's another one of the newer games on here. Actually, I have a couple of new games coming up here. So next, we have the Yu-Gi-Oh! Early Days Collection. Yes, which this is releasing in February. I have this pre-ordered. And this is a collection of quite a number of Yu-Gi-Oh! Games that were never released outside of Japan, from like the Game Boy Color, Game Boy Advance, I think even PlayStation 1 era, all bundled together. And I think there's like 11 or 12 games. Sadly, it's only releasing on the Switch and PC, so again, despite me hating on the Switch, I guess I had to play it on the Switch. But as I mentioned before, I'm a Yu-Gi-Oh! Boomer, so this is mainly like the original. That's not even like GX and 5Ds. This is old school Yu-Gi-Oh! I summon Beaver Warrior in attack mode and lay 2 cards face down and end my turn. Your move, Kaiba! So that's the Yu-Gi-Oh! I like. I don't like this, oh, Maxi, Ash Blossom, let me set the whole board, summon everything, synchro summon. Fuck that. We need the early days of Yu-Gi-Oh!, which is what we have. Look at how fucking badass that art is, too, of not just Yugi and Kaiba, but the other monsters there. There's like Raigeki, there's Thunder Kid, Tristan's buddy, the Mystical Elf. Who else is there? So many cool guys. Gaia, the Fierce Knight, and Karibo. Which Karibo, you may think Karibo is useless, but Karibo actually has an effect. You can just discard him from your hand, and you take no damage that turn. Which is why they work Karibo into the anime to always bailing Yugi out, because, you know, that's how it works, although they kind of bend the rules in the anime. But anyway, the next game here we have Fatal Fury, the City of the Wolves, which this is a, I guess, kind of 2D fighting game. It's not Arc System Works, it's SNK Corporation, and mainly I've gotten more into the fighting games because of the Grand Blue Fantasies and Blaze Blues and things of that nature. But the number one selling point for me has been the lovely Be Jenny. Oh my god, just look at those things. And that is a selling point, among being a pretty cool looking fighting game. And it has some like RPG elements too from what I saw in the trailer. But yeah, obviously, oh, you're just a Cooper. I don't give a fuck, I am. And I'm going to buy the game because of Be Jenny. You better believe it. So there you go. And with that, I think it's mostly games I have. So we'll continue with the backlog games. This, I hope to play this game this year, but I don't know. I own it, and that is Final Fantasy XII, The Zodiac Age. Now, The Zodiac Age is the remaster from a few years ago. I have it on the PS4. I think it's on every console, but this game released on the PlayStation 2 back in 2006. Great year, by the way. But I missed it on the PlayStation 2. As much as I loved Final Fantasy X and the Kingdom Hearts games, at a certain point I was just kind of done with it. And I never played Final Fantasy XII, and so I hope to play it this year. I would love to. I've heard great things about it. Friend of the channel, Justin. This is his favorite Final Fantasy. And I think this is also another friend of the channel, Game Night's favorite Final Fantasy. So, yeah, I'd love to play it. And hopefully, I don't know if it can become my favorite, but at least maybe in the top 3. We'll see about that. We'll see if I can bump Final Fantasy V off the top 3. But, yep, Final Fantasy 12, the Zodiac Age. We also have Fairy Tail 2, which is misleadingly called the action RPG. It's a turn-based RPG. I don't know why it's the action RPG. No, it's a turn-based RPG. What are you people doing calling it the action RPG? Like, what is going on here? That was false advertisement. It's turn-based. Thank God it's turn-based. But yeah, Fairy Tail. You know, the first game is kind of mid, honestly. It's okay, though. And the character models are even better in this one. You got Brandish and her Brandishes, Demaria and her Demarias, Altiers. You got them all. Among Lucy and all the other girls. And there's the DLC outfits, such as the swimsuits and Lucy's wedding gown for her marriage with me, of course. So yeah, Fairy Tail 2. So there's 3 games left on my list here, and they all kind of go together. So let's go through them, starting with Ys 9, Monstrum Nox. Now, if you've been following along with the channel, hopefully you know that I've been playing through the Ys games. I've played through pretty much all of them, with the exception of Ys 5, and then in the case of Ys 3, you know, we played the Oath in Felghana, and 4, we played Memories of Celceta, etc., etc. And I've loved all of the Ys games with the exception of Ys 7. That's kind of, it's not terrible, but it's not my favorite. It's definitely my least favorite Ys game. But in terms of, like, just general games, yeah, I'd rather play Ys 7 than force myself to play The Last of Us 2. God forbid. But yeah, there's a couple Ys games left. Ys 9, Monstrum Nox, which, you know, different art style than the Lacrimosa of Dana. I think, well, because Lacrimosa of Dana, that was a PlayStation Vita game. Then it got ported over to the PS4, then the PS5 and Switch and PC and all that stuff. This one was a PS4 game eventually on the PS5, and it you know, probably looks better. But even the art style there looks a little bit different. Looks like we have an array of waifus. I see a pink-haired waifu there, so that definitely piques my interest, of course. And I understand people say this is like their least favorite Ys game, to which that just makes me want to play it even more. And I will. And then we also have Ys 10, Nordics, which, what the hell? We're talking about a downgraded art style. I'm just praising how good this art style is. What the fuck is that? And yeah, I talked about this before. Like, what is with Adela's hair? It looks ridiculous. But, you know, we got Karja, waifu galore, voiced by Shirami Lee, by the way. So, definitely looking forward to playing that eventually after I finish 9. And then for good measure, we have Ys Memoir, The Oath in Felghana, which I already played this game, The Oath in Felghana, but Memoir, there's a couple of quality of life improvements, I guess. They gave Adol a voice with Bryce Papenbrook, of course, who's voiced Adol in all the games where he grunts. And does he talk in, well, he talks in like some of them. Like, you can give him a choice and he'll say, "We're gonna go forward together, the power of friendship." He says that. Otherwise he just grunts and says whatever. But yeah, forget Adol in this game. The standout performances with Elena and Chester. Oh, man. And Dogi. We can't forget the wall crusher himself. The legend, Dogi, of course. But anyway, that's my list. I hope you enjoyed this video. I know it's different than all the other videos you watch of this nature because I am my own man and I like to spice things up and get a little unhinged from time to time. So there you go. Maybe you guys can hold me to this. As I said, I'm still playing Master Duel and Fate Grand Order. But the next game I will play will be Grand Blue Fantasy vs. Rising. You can count on that. And I look forward to seeing more of my waifu Zeta, Ferry, Narmaya, Vera, and much, much more. And Matera. Oh, I could name them all. But anyway, thanks, guys. Have a great day. And we'll talk to you later. Peace out.
99.